Calypso. When Ulysses awoke, he found himself lying on a bed of sweet-smelling grass. The sun shone hotly. This should be sun, USN. The sun shone hotly, but he was in a pool of delicious cool shade under a poplar tree. He was still dizzy. The trees were swaying, and bright flowers danced upon the meadow. He closed his eyes, thinking, I am dead then. The God that haunts me took pity and shortened my hard life, and I am now in the Elysian fields. A voice answered, You have not died. You are not in the Elysian fields. You have come home. He opened his eyes again. A woman was bending over him. She was so tall that he knew she was no mortal woman, but nymph or naiad or demigoddess. She was clad means she was wearing, that could be your marginal note. She was clad in a short tunic of yellow and purple. Her hair was yellow and long and thick. You are here with me, she said. You have come home. Home? Is this Ithaca? Are you Penelope? This is Ogygia, and I am Calypso. He tried to sit up. He was too weak. But Ithaca is my home, he said, and Penelope is my wife. Home is where you dwell, and wives, I am told, often change, especially for sailors, especially for you. And now you belong to me, because this island and everything on it is mine. Ulysses went back to sleep, for he believed he was dreaming and did not wish to wake up again and find himself on the raft. But when he awoke, he was still in his dream. He was strong enough now to sit up and look around. He was in a great grove hemmed in by trees. Hemmed in means surrounded by trees. You could put that over as your marginal note. Hemmed by means surrounded by. Hemmed by trees, alder and poplar and cypress. Across this meadow 4 streams ran, crossing each other, making a sound like soft laughter. The meadow was a carpet of wildflowers, violets, parsley, bluebells, daffodils, and cat-faced pansies. His bed had been made in front of a grotto, he saw. Over it a wild grapevine had been trained to fall like a curtain. The vine curtain was pushed aside, and Calypso came out. You are awake, she cried, and just in time for your wedding feast. The stag is roasted. The wine has been poured. No, don't move. You're still too weak. Let me help you, little husband. She stooped and lifted him in her great white arms, and carried him as easily as though he were a child in the grotto, and set him before the hearth. A whole stag was spitted over the flame. The cave was carpeted with the skins of leopard and wolf and bear. Lovely and gracious goddess, said Ulysses, tell me, please, how I came here. The last I remember I was on my raft, and then a blackness fell. I was watching for you, said Calypso. I knew you would come, and I was waiting. Then your raft floated into sight. I saw you slump over and roll off the raft, and I changed you into a fish. For sharks live in this water, and they are always hungry. As soon as I turned you into a fish, a gull stooped, and he would have had you, but I shot him with my arrow. Then I took my net and fished you out, restored you to your proper shape, fed you a broth of herbs, and let you sleep. That was your arrival. O man I have drawn from the sea. That was your arrival, O man I have drawn from the sea. As for your departure, that will never be. Now eat your meat and drink your wine, for I like my husbands well fed. So She said husbands, so she has definitely more than one husband. She's done this before, what she's doing and done to Ulysses. You should also note over here, so you would say she has more than one husband. You would also note that as for your departure, that will never be. That means he's never leaving this island, according to her. Ulysses ate and drank, and felt his strength return. After all, he thought, things could be worse. In fact, they have been much worse. This may turn out to be quite a pleasant interlude. She is certainly beautiful, this Calypso. Rather large for my taste, and inclined to be bossy, I'm afraid. But who's perfect? So basically over here you could say, he's been through so much. He seems okay with being stuck on this island, at least for now. He says interlude, so he's thinking he's only going to be here for a little while. And as we read before, she's thinking he's never leaving. He turned to her, smiling, and said, "You say you were waiting for me, watching for my raft. How did you know I would be coming?" "I am one of the Titan brood," so she's a Titan, said Calypso, or she is the daughter of a Titan, daughter of mighty Atlas, who stands upon the westward rim of the world, bearing the sky upon his shoulders. We are the elder branch of the gods, we Titans. For us there is no before or after, only now, wherein all things are and always were and always will be. Time, you see, is a little arrangement man has made for himself to try to measure the immeasurable. In the margin over here you could write the unmeasurable, what can't be measured. So time is what man has made for himself to try to measure the immeasurable mystery of life. It does not really exist. So when we want to know anything that has happened in what you call before, or what will, should be will, not when, or what will happen in what you call after, we simply shuffle the pictures and look at them. So for the Titans, or this daughter of the Titans, there's no time. Time doesn't really exist. I don't think I understand. I have watched your whole voyage, Ulysses. All I have to do is poke the log in a certain way, and pictures from in the heart of the fire. Pictures form in the heart of the fire and burn there until I poke the log again. What would you like to see? My wife, Penelope. So reached her long arm and poked the log, and in the heart of the flame Ulysses saw a woman weaving. She looks older, he said. You have been away a long time. Only the immortals do that age. I was 2,300 years old yesterday, which is kind of ironic because she said that time doesn't really exist, yet she's using the term here, 2,300 years old yesterday. She just said time doesn't. Look at me. Do you see any wrinkles? Poor Penelope, said Ulysses. Don't pity her too much. She has plenty of company. She is presumed to be a widow, you know. Is she married again? I weary of this picture. Would you like to see another? So the Calypso doesn't want to look at Penelope anymore, or talk about Penelope anymore. I weary of this picture. She's done with it. She doesn't want to see Penelope's pictures in the fire anymore, and he wants to see Penelope because Calypso wants him to be her husband. So he moves on. My son, Telemachus. He poked the fire again, and Ulysses saw the flickering image of a tall young man with red gold hair. He held a spear in his hand and looked angry. How he has grown, murmured Ulysses. He was a baby when I left. He is a young man now, and a fine one, is he not? Looks like his father, said Calypso, so she likes the father, so she's going to like what the son looks like, I guess. He seemed to be defying some enemy, said Ulysses. What is happening? He is trying to drive away his mother's suitors. Suitors are people who want to marry someone. These are the people who want to marry Penelope, Ulysses' wife. He is trying to drive away his mother's suitors. Put a marginal note. Suitors who live in your castle now. She is quite popular for an older woman. So I think she's probably trying to put herself forth, Calypso saying, I'm better. I'm not an old woman. I don't look old. But your wife, Penelope, does. That's a marginal note here. She is quite popular for an older woman. But then, of course, she has land and goods. A rich widow. You left her this should be well, not will. You left her well provided. Oh, sailor, she has many suitors and cannot decide among them. Or perhaps she enjoys their courtship too much to decide. But your son is very proud of his father, whom he does not remember, and seeks to drive the suitors from your castle. I had better go home and help him, said Ulysses. Put that out of your mind. It simply will not happen. Remember, she's not planning on him leaving the island, her island. Forget Ithaca, Ulysses. You are a hero, a mighty hero, and heroes have many homes, and the last is always the best. So this is the last place. This is where he's staying, according to her. Look at this. See some of your exploits. So she's going to show him some of what he's done in the fire. Like many warriors, you were too busy fighting to know what really happened. She poked the log again and again, and a stream of pictures flowed through the fire. Ulysses saw himself standing on a rock in the Cyclops' cave, holding the white-hot sword above the great sleeping eye, preparing to stab it in. He saw himself wrestling with the leather bag of winds that Aeolus had given him. Saw himself running with the wolves and lions who had been Circe's lovers in the dark courtyard of her castle. Then, sword in hand, he saw himself hacking at Scylla's tentacles as she reached across the tilting deck for his men. Going back, he saw himself before his homeward voyage, crouched in the black belly of the wooden horse he had made. Trojan horse. Next, you could put that here, marginal note, the Trojan horse. Next, climbing out of that horse after it had been dragged into the city and racing with lifted sword to slaughter the sleeping Trojan warriors. And as he watched and saw the old battles refought, the men who had been his friends, and the monstrous enemies he had overcome, his heart sang with pride, and a drunken warmth, stronger than the fumes of wine, rose to his head, drowning out all the pictures of home. And isn't that what Calypso wanted over here? Calypso wants him to forget about Penelope, Ithaca, and Telemachus, and only think about him as a warrior, as a hero. He stood up and said, Thank you for showing me myself, Calypso. I do seem to be a hero, don't I? And worthy to love a daughter of the Titans. Yes, said Calypso. Now, Calypso had amused herself with shipwrecked sailors before. So this means over here, Ulysses is not the first man to arrive on this island. But she was hard to please, and none of them had lasted very long. Makes me wonder, what did she do with them? What did she do with the other husband she didn't want? When she was tired of someone, she would throw him back into the sea. That answers my question. If she were feeling good-natured, she would change him to gull or fish first. Indeed, the trees of the grove were filled with nesting seabirds, gull and heron and osprey and sand owls, who called to her at night, reproaching her. So it sounds like she also turned some of the husbands, the former husbands, into birds. What is that clamor of birds? Said Ulysses. Just birds. Why do they shriek so? And you could write over here, they shriek so because they're really former husbands. and now they see